We are back with the RotoWire Rundown. My name's Keith Stewart from Read the Line. I am, of course, joined by my counterpart in crime, the one, the only, the award-winning scribe from RotoWire, senior golf writer over there, Len Hochberg. Len, good morning. And the pleasantries are going to end right there. And the reason being is that whenever they do start this World Series in 2 weeks or whatever it may be, and that first pitch is thrown, you and I become mortal enemies. I am a diehard Yankees fan, and obviously you're wearing the Dodgers hat there just to rub it in my face. So good luck to you and to your team and to your payroll and to mine as well. But I think we're going to get one heck of a series. Boy, baseball is back in a big way. What's the reaction like out there in LA? Usually people are pretty laid back out there. Are they fired up about their Dodgers?
Yeah, they absolutely are, Keith. It's unbelievable. Tickets are through the roof or over $1,000. You can't find a ticket under $1,000. Um, there is incredible excitement. I think this just, it's the Dodgers are in the World Series. Ohtani's in the World Series, but it's the Dodgers and the Yankees. I think collectively that's what makes this. People are losing their junk all around the country over this series, and I don't think the 4 or 5 day wait till they actually start playing on Friday night, now 3 days, is really going to lessen the fervor and everything. So yeah, I think, and it starts out here Friday night, so pretty cool.
Yeah, I almost akin it like with these two teams getting lined up with the two best teams in baseball actually making it to the World Series. I think it's almost like we're going to get 7 days of the Masters or something, like this thing, it should be pretty good. I'm looking forward to it. And I'm also looking forward to another week of PGA Tour golf. We're here on the rundown to discuss the ZOZO Championship. But before we go there, sometimes in all of our pop culture discussions about what's going on in the world of golf and, where we should kind of lean ourselves for our weekend wagers or DFS strategy, sometimes it helps to take a little bit of a look back and to ponder what has just taken place. And one of the things that you and I have to do is come up with predictions. And one of the ways to predict things is to look at recent form. JT Poston delivered for the Shriners Children's Open, and he hasn't teed it up in over 2 months, right? So do we just throw it out the window that, recent form matters? Now, don't get me wrong. There was Kurt Kitayama, a lot of guys that were up there at the top of the leaderboard that had been playing well in the FedEx Cup fall, but a guy, the top 50, just strolled in on a golf course that I guess he's comfortable on, and he took the title. I mean, what do you think about recent form versus, well, the argument that I'm raising here? What do you think about it?
Yeah, there are like 15 thoughts that come through my head because, yeah, we do look at this stuff. What before we make our predictions? How's this guy playing? When did he last play? How has he done at this course? And yeah, you wouldn't think a guy coming back after 2 months off would be really ready to get thrown into the fire against guys who've been playing 3 or 4 weeks in a row or whatever it is during the fall season. But I think it just goes to show there's no one size fits all. Some guys would come back and miss the cut. They would not play well. Other guys wouldn't. And it's really, I mean, I don't know if I'm going behind the curtain here or opening the curtain here, but it's impossible to predict how someone will
Oh, yeah.
react to this situation. I mean, in retrospect, JT Poston, the reason he hasn't played, one of the reasons he hasn't played in 2 months is because he just became a first-time dad, actually back in March, I think. So his newborn is now roughly 6, 7 months old and stuff. And he talked afterward about, the joy of fatherhood and how it made him realize that golf is secondary or maybe even tertiary, whatever, behind family and stuff. And in that regard, maybe it loosened him up on the golf course. Maybe he realized that not everything lived and died with every golf shot. So there are just incredible factors like what we take into account. And not to jump ahead because I want to hear your thing on this, but with the Zozo, who's going to react to the long flight and the different culture over there and the different foods and who's going to handle that and who's not going to feel comfortable not sleeping in their own bed and things like that. So I mean, this is just an open-ended conversation, and there's really no right answer, and everyone is different.
Yeah, you know what? I love betting on JT Poston. I just think that he is a really stand-up guy. Every time I'm out on tour, he's very, very friendly. He and his caddy Aaron Fleener are two very fun guys on social media. They do all the right things. They're good ambassadors in the middle tier for the PGA Tour. He's now a 3-time winner. It's just unbelievable. The last 2 times I saw him at the St. Jude and then at the BMW, he was not playing well, and admittingly saying that he was not playing well. So I guess 2 months off, he figured some things out. I guess the lesson in all of this that we could pass along as a PSA is that JT Poston was top 5 at Shriners a year ago, right? So if the course fit is there and a guy has some time to rest, recover, and work on his game, and we know the course fit is there, then we need to pay attention to it. And that kind of segues or transitions us over here to the ZOZO, because the big 3 that we have rolling in this week, Xander, Hideki, and Colin, that are all sitting at single digits on the betting board. We haven't seen them in a month since the President's Cup, and they haven't played in a stroke play event in over 2 months. So is somebody just going to walk? Are one of these elite players just going to walk right in on the fall and break some hearts again? I don't know. But I mean, we certainly do have to pay attention. And as we start to do that and build our lineups and talk about who we're going to wager on possibly for this weekend, when you look at Accordia, Golf, Narashino, Cherry, Country Club, right? Like when you look at this place, what do you start to think about as you're building out your lineups? What's the skill set involved? Do you take jet lag, travel, all of those? I mean, Xander and Colin, Hideki, these guys, well, Hideki lives over there, but these guys should come in fresh, right? Shouldn't be a jet lag problem. It's not like they've been playing. 48 players in the 78-man field were there at the Shriners, and they had to hustle their way over there, losing a day. So, it's an interesting thing, and I'm wondering where your head's at for all this.
Yeah, well, I'm guessing is first of all, Xander and Colin, they're not flying Spirit Air over there. They probably have very good accommodations. Their plane ride over is probably more luxurious than our homes. But when I look any course, any week, the first thing I look at is the very, very basic starting point is what's the winning score. And then you can start to go from there. Is it going to be a birdie fest or not? And the last 3 years at the ZOZO have been remarkably consistent. I think we've had 2 15 unders, Hideki in 2021 and Keegan Bradley in 2022. And last year was Colin Morikawa at 14 under. So 2 15s and a 14, or maybe it was 2 14s and a 15. And even the first year when Tiger won at 19, he was even 3 clear, I think, of the winner there. That was incidentally Tiger's 82nd and likely last PGA Tour victory came here 5 years ago.
What? Wait a second. Are you a doubter?
Breaking news here. I'm breaking news. Yes.
Are you a doubter that Tiger Woods could win again? And I'm not talking rolling out in a cart with John Daly at a Champions Tour event. Yes or no? Do you think Tiger Woods can win another PGA Tour event?
No, he can't. He can't even win the Hero next month or 2 months,
All right.
whatever.
All right.
Next month it is.
Well, we've got it on record. Continue then. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, old takes exposed. Come after me. But anyway, so yeah, but it is a very interesting golf course. There's some interesting things about it that we don't see. I think maybe the big talking point, the big obvious one, is that every hole has 2 greens. One, it's traditional in Japan. It allows for seasonal changes. They have bent grass greens and Bermuda grass greens, and they're going to be using on every hole but one the bent grass greens this week. And just a little sidebar, if you land on the other green, you can't hit off of it. You get a free drop. You're not allowed to hit off the other green. The only hole where they'll be using the Bermuda green is number 4. That's really not important, but just throwing that out there. The other thing that's really fascinating, of the 10 par 4s, they're either really short or really long. Yeah. They're either under 425 or over 485. There's nothing in between 425 and 485. I don't think we've ever seen that in any of our discussions or in any PGA Tour event. The 4 hardest holes traditionally are 4 of those long par 5s. So the course is very short. I'm rambling here. The course is short. Driving distance will not be a big factor. Driving accuracy is not even that huge of a factor A lot of dog legs, things like that to blunt distance. Long iron play on those long par fours, I think, will be important, and you'll have to make some putts too, and on the bent grass greens.
You talk about the scorecard there for a second, and I just want to add in that there's 5 par 3s.
Yeah.
So if there's a week where approach is ever going to matter, when you get 5 perfect lies with an iron every day, I mean, if you're a very good approach player and par 3 scorer, that's going to give you an advantage. I really think at the end of the day, this place is all about accuracy. When you look at the people that have won there or played well on the leaderboards, they're just really good ball strikers. So for the first thing is you got to keep it in play. You've got 70 plus bunkers. You've got 5 holes with water in play. You've got tree lined. You're going up and down through elevation. So the terrains, you have uneven lies. It's like, how well can you just keep your date on the dance floor? Like, can you keep the ball in an area where you can then approach the greens and attack? Because there's definitely a balance here between bogey avoidance and birdie rate. Right? Like, when you're looking at something in the mid-teens, that means that guys usually make mistakes. So with that average winning score being like whatever it was, 15.75, and if you throw the Tiger year out, it's basically just 15 under par. As you mentioned, it really, to me, starts to beg like, okay, one other unique thing about the scorecard is this is a par 70. So who are the good par 70 players? I always go down this road, like I love, there's reasons for everything. Like, who are the really good par 70 players in this field? And of course, the first 3 are the big 3, right? Hideki leads the way. And then you have Colin and Xander. And certain things about their skill sets, which I'll get into in a second, lead to that. But then the next 2 are Sungjae and JT. Well, that makes sense too. Not only do those guys have a lot of par 70 experience playing in majors and everything, but they play well in those events. Now, the next 5 are interesting, and I want to throw them by you. You've got Gary Woodland, Sahith Theegala, Eric Cole, Andrew Putnam, Will Zalatoris. Definitely some names when you start to look at the middle tier, or you want to build some DFS lineups, they're going to catch a lot of attention, whether it's Cole's top 5 here last year or the way that Putnam putts. I mean, there's a lot of things going on there that really catch my attention. And then the secret sauce, I think, around this place has a lot to do with what you mentioned, which is the short par 4s and the 3 par 5s. People never put enough stock in scrambling when there's short holes. They always think scrambling is the right to save par. But it's really just about hitting awkward length wedge shots and pitching the ball very, very close to your target. Now, that could be for birdie on a par 5, or it could be to save par if you're punching out of the trees on a long par 4, of which we have both here. And if you look at the winners, Colin, Hideki, Keegan. I mean, Keegan and Hideki are 2 of the best pitchers of the golf ball that are out there, right? You know that very well. I know that very well. Those guys have really, really good short games off tight lies, off, hairy lies, whatever it may be. Colin showed us, not early in his career, but last year, that he can be very good. He had a very good short game year. He had a very good putting year. This could have been a precursor to that when he won and he just showed up. So the secret sauce, if you're trying to decide between people, I would definitely look at those scrambling numbers, because those short par 4s, those guys are going to have 50-yard pitches, and who can make the most birdies, because they're going to make some bogeys on those 500-yard, 490-yard par 4s. Which leads me down to the road. I guess we're going back to the big 3. They added one more above 10K, but let's talk about names here on the DFS board, right? In the 10,000s, you've got 4 guys, the 3 that we've mentioned, and then the other one's the Gala. Where are you steering in the 10,000s for the ZOZO Championship?
Yeah, it's I would like to pick all of them, but that doesn't do anybody any good. And, as you mentioned, the best par 70 guys are the best players, and the players who we've seen a relatively big name win this tournament every year. There has not been an outlier. Even the one in Vegas in the pandemic year 2020 was Patrick Cantlay. So, Tiger, Hideki, Keegan, Colin Morikawa. I'm whittled the top 4 down to 2, and it was not easy. Number 1 is Xander, because Xander is number 1. Anytime Scotty's not playing, Xander is number 1. I don't care if he hasn't played in 2 months. I don't care this. I don't care that. He's just, he's just playing. There's no course. There's no situation where he cannot come and play well. And that said, he has not been great at this tournament. He comes every year. He has Japanese heritage. So it's important to him to be here. I think that's fantastic. I don't think he's ever finished higher than ninth, but he has really elevated himself to such a level that I can't, he's almost a must play or certainly a must consider every time he's out there. And the other guy is Hideki. This is Hideki's Super Bowl, maybe other than the Masters. This is his big tournament of the year. It's not the national championship in Japan, but it's certainly the biggest tournament in Japan. He's won it before. He hasn't played well here the last 2 years, but those couple of years or coincided with his back and his neck issues. We saw this past season that he is pretty much over those. And when
Yeah.
he is over them, we saw how well he could play. So he was fantastic this year, and he won in 2021 at this course. And he'll be sleeping in his own bed, figuratively speaking. So they're my two picks in the 10,000s. It was not easy. I eliminated Morikawa because he just has not been the approach player that Colin Morikawa normally is. We haven't seen that all year. He's been winning in other ways or playing well. He has not won. He's been playing very well in other ways. So that may come back to bite me.
What'd you think about the value they put on Xander? I thought it was kind of low for a limited field. But, I wanted to get your perspective on that. The fact that he was under 12 seemed to me like that was going to allow a lot more flexibility for lineups.
Yeah, we've seen some 13s with Scotty during
Yeah.
the season. So, I hadn't thought about that, but I think that's pretty apparent that he could have been much higher. And I don't know if it would have swayed people. I don't know if it really would have swayed me either, because you do have the opportunity to kind of getting ahead of ourselves here to go really low because it's only 78 guys. You don't have to pass a lot of guys to get up the leaderboard. Plus, you have 4 rounds. You're not going to miss a cut. So there's really no reason to avoid the picking some high price guys and going in deep into the 6,000s. And so that would have been, so Xander is a very favorable price into that scenario.
Now, speaking of moving up the board, we've got 6 guys in the 9s, but there's a guy that just popped up there that the last time we saw him, or we could put him in DFS lineups, he was in the 7s. Why all of a sudden is Will Zalatoris back up in the 9s? And is he somebody that you're interested in this week, or who do you like in the 9,000s?
Yeah, I don't know why Will Zalatoris is in the 9s. It has not been great. Certain guys get a reputation. And even though Zalatoris hasn't been around that long and won all that much, when he was good, he was really, really good tee to green. And I think people just keep that in mind. And it's hard to shake that he can be so good. Under and certainly at this course where you're talking about where accuracy matters. But I don't know why he's that high. I don't have him I picked 2 guys in the 9s, and one of them is Sungjae Im, who
Oh,
is, plays this tournament. I think he skipped 1 year, but he's played this tournament 4 of the 5 previous Zozos. And, the Korean guys show up here as well. Siwoo Kim is here. I think it's important to them. There's no longer that tournament in Korea. What was it at Nine Bridges?
yeah.
That tournament has gone away. So this is, it's nice to see them come out. It's important for them, even though Korea is not Japan, but the Far East is the Far East. And Sungjae has played well here, and Sungjae has been great the second half of this season. Interesting, he hasn't played in a while, and it's for Sungjae to take time off, you wonder, did he lose a limb or something? What's keeping him from playing? But I do like him. And Kurt Kitayama really, really playing well, tee to green, just incredible approach play, iron play, accuracy. One of the worst putters in the field, but I'm banking on the fact that it's only a 78-man field and it's no cut. And also it's not a super birdie fest, that if he can just putt kind of okay, less horrible, that he could be high up the leaderboard as well. It's a more manageable situation under this scenario to be a bad putter.
Now, down in the 8,000s, we've got some guys that we've been talking about for a couple weeks now, maybe a month since the Procore, right? You've got Bo Hostler, Harry Hall. You got the Gim Reaper, Doug Gim. He was close last week. I'm curious who you're featuring in the 8,000 range.
Yeah, it's kind of tough. This was a hard range to come up with a couple of guys. I mean, I could have picked more, but I'm trying to keep it to two because it's such a small field. Two guys who have played well here and have played well of late. I do like guys who have played well here for the reasons I think. Can't remember if we were talking off before we came on or after about the flight, the time change, the
Oh yeah.
jet lag, the culture change, the food change. Guys who have been here before and played well before have shown they can do it. I certainly lean toward them. And the two guys there are Bo Hostler and JJ Spawn. Hostler's been playing
Oh
great in the fall. We talk about him every week. And
yeah.
JJ Spawn, darn good iron player too, at least lately.
Yeah, JJ Spawn. Man, I was so high on him at the Sanderson, and then the withdrawal with the injury. So he's blacklisted. But it pains me not to be able to take him this week because he would be a super fit for this place, especially since I'm not sure putting is as important as people think. But I'll get to that later. 7,000s. We're going Taylor Moore down to Charlie Hoffman and everyone in between. Now we're starting to get down the board where we need your help. So in the 7K range, who do you like here at the Zozo?
Yeah, I'm breaking from what I was just saying about picking guys who've been here. This is really the one outlier among my picks, a guy who has not played this tournament before, at least in Japan. I think Matt Kuchar played the Las Vegas edition, but Matt Kuchar has not been here before, but he's been playing very well, putting very well. He's been a lot of top 15s, I think, in 4 of his last 5 starts, something like that. The reason I like Kuchar is because this is a course that he can succeed on. It's not a long bomber's course. It's a course, he's often talked about liking to play chess out on the golf course. And I think that's what this is, with dog legs and angles and where you're going to go and where you're going to land and things. And, he's got to get up to speed in just a few days, unlike guys who've been coming here for a number of years right now. I'm going to guess he didn't bring his own caddy. I'm going to guess he has a local caddy. I'm just completely reaching right there, and we can talk about caddy payment jokes or whatever if you want, and that's what everyone's thinking who's listening here. But I think that if anyone can get up to speed on a golf course like this quickly, it's a veteran like Matt Kuchar who loves this type of scenario. And the other guy I like in the 8s is Adam Svensson. He's played here twice. He hasn't been great, but he improved greatly from one year to the next. 2 years ago, 59th, last year, 41st. He's had a couple of top 25s in the fall, and over the last 24 rounds, he's been really, really tremendous with his long irons, and that's going to be a really important component this week.
Cooch definitely fits the scrambler mode. I mean, there aren't many guys that are better with a wedge than that guy and the putter combo. So that catches my attention. Now down in the 6,000s. Wait, you know what? I meant to ask you this, and I forget. With all the signature events and everything else, when you have a no-cut event and you get this low, when you get down in the 6,000s, does that change your approach or your process at all, versus one like last week where there is a cut and there's more risk involved? I mean, how do you approach when you're selecting, these guys down here in the value center when we know we're going to get 4 rounds out of them?
Yeah, it definitely changes things. I think some of these tournaments with 132 or 156, where you got to get to the weekend, it's really difficult to find somebody. It's almost free and liberating. You can just pick here, and you're not going to be an idiot on Friday. At least you're not. You might be an idiot on Sunday, but you get 2 extra days to not be an idiot. So I do like that. But yeah, and I mean, what we talked about earlier is that, we've seen the big names win this tournament. There are a lot of, lesser guys from the Japan Tour and some other, and even from the PGA Tour who don't really have a chance to win. So it's not, so Xander Schauffele, Colin Hideki, they don't have to beat a lot of guys to win this tournament what I'm saying. So
Yeah,
I
sure.
like to build up with the top guys, but maybe 2 of the Xander, Hideki, Colin, Sahith, and then you really got to go low. So yeah, last week where I was just scrambling to find someone who can make the cut, Nate Lashley, he's got no chance to do well. He just, that's what he does. He makes cuts and finishes 50th every week. And he made the cut last week. I don't know if he finished. I don't know where he finished, but he did make the cut. But I'm more likely to go low here. And in the 6,000s, have a couple of Japanese players who have played here before and played pretty well here before. Ryosuke Kinoshita, who used to be number
Bless you.
69 in. Yes, exactly. He used to be number 69 in the world, so he's got some game. He's back in the 200s right now. Since he was in the Open Championship this year, so more evidence that he's got some game. He missed the cut, but since he missed the cut at the Open Championship, 9 starts, he's had 5 top 7s, and he was runner-up last week in the Japan Open. A pretty big deal over here. So he's coming in with some very nice form here. And the other guy we all know about, Ryo Ishikawa, tied for 4th here last year. And he tied for 4th here last year, coming off a runner-up at the Japan Open last week. Well, the week before last year. But at last week's Japan Open, he had another good week, top 10, tied for 8th. So I'm looking for a repeat of playing well at the Japan Open, coming in and following up at the ZOZO. Played well at the Japan Open this year. Let's see if he can follow it up again at the ZOZO. He's all the way down at 6,200. You got 4 rounds out of him. You have so much opportunity to move up the leaderboard. Even a top 20 would pay off at 6,200.
Well, I'm going to tail both of those because just like Nate Lashley, they week after week, you prove your value because the guys that you pick down there more often than not make the cut in cut events or in these 4-round events. They at least do enough or provide enough value at the 66,000, 62, 6,300, level. You got to keep your expectations limited, but you need 6 guys. And if you want to start throwing Xander and, Bo Hostler in a lineup or something like that, and a couple other guys up there in the 9s, it's just, you run out of room quick. And
very fast.
Yeah, I always wonder if that calculator is weighted sometimes. I'm like, wow, how did I get down to 4,000 left? It just blows my mind. Anyway, here's a guy that's been blowing my mind lately with his ball striking. You mentioned his name earlier. You're going to feature him in your DFS lineups, and that is Kurt Kitayama. I wrote about him yesterday, Golf Digest Odds Drop. He was the guy for me right off the bat. He started out the week at plus 3,500. He's down now in the 2s or in the 20s already. Just a wonderful ball striker. And yes, he is one of the weakest putters in the field. But if you take me through the previous winners at this golf course, they are not flat stick aficionados. No one is going to claim that Colin Morikawa, Keegan Bradley, who still uses a long putter, and Hideki Matsuyama are guys that we are featuring, and strokes gained putting contests. So, I feel like if Kitayama, who he's been amazing lately, tee to green, right? He's got back-to-back fall events. He's gaining over 7 strokes tee to green. Yes, the putter hasn't been good, but he still was in the last group at the Shriners. So for me, I feel like if he could just have an average week on the greens here, and again, this place has proven to allow average putters to excel a little bit, I feel like Kurt's going to be right there at the end of the week. He's got 2 top 30s here. He's got golf course experience. And the second guy, speaking of putting again, going out, I don't really feel like it's on a limb because I don't feel like this place is really going to challenge the guys too much there on the surfaces. But Gary Woodland, plus 7,500. Now, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but he switched over to a lab putter 2 weeks ago, right? He gained over 3 strokes, almost 4 strokes on the greens at the Shriners. He's had his first top 10 since the surgery and all of his health issues. His ball striking has always been great. This is a perfect fit golf course for both Kitayama and Woodland, right? This accuracy contest where power is going to be an advantage if you have it, if you're a longer end straighter, and both these guys can score. They could take advantage of dog legs. They could both play the ball different ways off the tee, right to left, left to right. I mean, they absolutely fit. And certainly now with the lab putter that Gary Woodland has, I think he has a chance on the greens to at least break even, which means with his ball striking, much like Kitayama, we'll put him in the mix for the final 9 on Sunday, like early Sunday morning for us. So that's where I'm heading with my 2 betting leans for the week. I'm going to need a little help on the putting surfaces, but I certainly won't need it in this accuracy fest that we're looking forward to there over at Accordia Golf National Country Club. Any feedback for me on that?
Yeah. Well, I talked about Kitayama before. Woodland, I did not know Woodland had a new putter, but I did know that in Woodland's last 2 starts, he's had his 2 best finishes of the year. I'm not a doctor, but I'm going to guess there's a big ramp up to recovering from brain surgery, and that you're not back out there 7 days later ripping it 350. So maybe it's taken this much time or whatever, or just adjusting to life post brain surgery. But he was, like you said, his first top 10 all year was last week at the Shriners. And his previous start, with 2 weeks before that at the Sanderson Farms, I think he was 16th. So his two best finishes of the year. He's 137th in the FedEx, which is pretty remarkable in and of itself. Now, he doesn't have to get into the top 125. He's still in for one more year on his US Open win. So he's not dealing with pressure that a lot of guys are, with me grip the club and got to make this shot, or I'm not playing next year or anything. He's probably playing free and easy, and he's probably feeling incredibly good about himself since he switched putters in these last few weeks. So I did notice that Gary Woodland has been playing his best golf all year in the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, with the new putter, it certainly catches my attention. Another thing, you bring up a good storyline with the points. I mean, 48 guys that came over from the Shriners. I guarantee you 90% of those guys have points implications, whether they're going for that top six, the top 10, 51 to 60, or they're going for that top 125. And now you're in a limited field, no cut. It's almost like free points. It's like, geez,
Right.
spend the miles for the airline and just go over there and deal with it for 4 days. We're going to get a week off next week, which leads me into the transition for our close. Yes, everybody, I know you're going to be upset. You won't see Len and I for 2 weeks as we travel down to Cabo in Mexico for the Worldwide Technology Championship. We'll be back at El Diamante talking about another birdie fest here. Probably not one here at the ZOZO, but set the alarms. It's going to be late nights or early mornings, whichever end of the spectrum you see it on. More so for me than you there, Len Hochberg, and good luck in the World Series. By the time we come back, that thing should be wrapped up, and the Yankees, you've been looking at their 27th World Championship. So, but good luck to the Dodgers all across the board.
Yeah, and what a big moment for Japanese sports. Beside the ZOZO, their big golf tournament, one of the big sporting events of the year in Japan. They all eyes in Japan will be on Shohei Ohtani. They have the numbers of people viewing Dodger games has been through the roof over there. So it's a pretty exciting time. But the games will not the tournament will not conflict, I don't think, with World Series time. So there is that. Yeah.
Well, that it's all good for Japanese live sports, right? So the ladies are over there in Malaysia as well. So I just don't sleep anymore. That's the third straight week over there. So they went from Seoul down all the way to Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. And the fact that I know all of that off the top of my head tells you how much of a golf geek I am. But I enjoy spending the time with you always, every week in the rundown. Folks, we'll see you in 2 weeks. Len Hochberg, good luck in the World Series, and let's go Yankees.